Good morning. It's great to be with you again. Here in Austin, the heat's coming. It'll be in the 90s this week. Just back to normal for us. And in my last interview with the therapist talking about childhood trauma, I've had some fantastic comments. I've had some great questions. I've had some really passionate, gracious feedback about understanding our own trauma and how to navigate through it. If you haven't watched that video yet, I'd highly suggest that you go and watch it because it has some wonderful information in there on how our own trauma, our own pain from childhood, from neglect, from abuse even, can make our own recovery from infidelity, whether unfaithful or betrayed, that much harder. And there's been some questions where it comes down to, Sam, how do I work through the issues that I have? I feel like I'm being held hostage by my own trauma. Not necessarily laying it on your spouse or your partner, but saying, how do I navigate through what feels like this never-ending cycle of pain and hurt and trauma that's going on inside of me? I feel like and this is a true story, I had someone tell me recently, I feel like I'm being held hostage by my trauma. I thought it was such a well-put question that today, that's what I'm going to talk about. Here are 4 things that you can do, unfaithful or betrayed or both, that you can do when you feel like you are being captivated, held hostage by your own trauma. Number 1, it is absolutely essential that you hold on to yourself. What does that mean? Man, it means that one of the worst things that you can do is shame yourself, attack yourself, and not have a routine. Remember, healing requires new habits, new patterns, and new routines. Even if you are a betrayed or an unfaithful, you're going to have to establish new habits and patterns and routines if you're going to heal. But you've got to be able to hold on to yourself. How do you do that? Man, by having a self-care regimen that is a priority, by learning how to self-soothe. That could be music. That could be finding whatever helps you soothe the chaos and tornado that you're experiencing inside you. It could be a bath. It could be soothing music, taking a walk, getting time alone, going on a long drive, working out, finding a new hobby to help you get a lot of this pain and this angst and even just this energy out of you. When I was going through some real dark trauma, I was in the gym twice a day sometimes for about an hour each time. And it really helped me be able to let go of this inner conflict and pain and just unresolved stuff. I know that doesn't sound too clinical, but I just had all this inside of me and I had to find an outlet that was redemptive and restorative and ultimately helpful to me, because everybody around me experienced the benefit of me doing my own work. It is often that when we're trying to break free, we become dysregulated. So what's your plan if you feel dysregulated internally? Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you reach out to? Another thing is to have a care team that you identify, someone professional, maybe a support group like what we do at A Fair Recovery, maybe having a close friend or two that you can go to vent to talk to trust in, to maybe even have them sit with you. You could even give them things to remind you and say, hey, I need you to be part of my care team. When I become dysregulated and I freak the heck out, I need you to say these things to me. I need you to help me be able to self-soothe, but also be there for me to help calm me down. Number 2, Rick Reynolds, who you may have seen on our videos and the founder of fairrecovery.com, as well as Amanda, the therapist that came in last time, says this quite often, is that violence does not restore a sense of self. Now, I'm not just talking about physical violence, because I know that there can be a temptation to be violent at times because you're so dysregulated or angry or upset. But violent communication is also not going to restore a sense of self. What is violent communication? Shaming your partner, attacking your partner, having this sense of entitlement that says, well, because you did this, I'm going to do this to you the rest of our relationship or the rest of time on earth, because that is violent communication that will not restore your own sense of self, your own sense of compassion, your own sense of healing. That's not going to be what brings about healing. And I know that so many people are out there saying, well, look, they cheated, so I'm going to be however I'm going to be. It's just me. Or, you know what? My betrayed refused to do this, so I'm going to do this because I feel entitled and I deserve this. That is trying to restore a sense of self that will never work. It will only damage your relationship, but it will also damage yourself, and it will also damage your partner. Is that what you really want to do? Is that what your situation needs, is violent communication? I promise you it doesn't. I promise you the violent communication will not bring a sense of personal restoration. It will not restore a sense of pride. It will not restore a sense of confidence for you at all. Number 3 is understanding that not all behavior that was modeled for us by our parental figures is helpful or good or redemptive. You may have had a parent be a workaholic, and so when they were struggling, they just worked and worked and worked. And you may be doing that too, and on the front end, sure, looks fine, but all you're doing is running yourself into the ground. Or maybe you had a parental figure that was angry and yelled or maybe threw things, and now that behavior is coming out in you, and you kind of go, how is this happening? Why is this happening? It's because the trauma is inside of you and it's overwhelming you. And how we break free is being able to understand you're going to have to get help to maybe even reparent that child inside of you that is so afraid, is so traumatized, is so angry, is so scared that it doesn't know what to do. So it's reverting to old behavior. Maybe you feel like I've always been this way and I don't want to be this way anymore. Good. That's why you're going to have to be able to uncover what those patterns are so that you can find freedom, so that you can be able to stop the generational transfer of pain and hurt and trauma or violent communication or maybe even violence and addictive behavior. This is about you being able to stop the negative generational transfer of these patterns that could stop with you. Number 4, and this is harder for some people, easier for others, but it's develop an emotional IQ. You know, sometimes we men struggle to find our words. Sometimes we struggle to be able to put words to our feelings, and so we need a little bit of time. But that's just not a universal truth, because there are many women, unfaithful or betrayed, who struggle to find their words. And it is no longer going to be acceptable for you, if you're one of those people, to say, I just don't talk much. You're not going to be able to heal by keeping it inside anymore. You're going to have to develop an emotional IQ. Well, Sam, how do I do that? Read books, get an expert therapist that can help you, or a coach. Take a course, read information, watch videos on our website, find an emotional IQ through the verbiage of another to be able to use for your spouse or partner, but also to use for yourself. If you're going to break free from feeling like a hostage to your own trauma, you're going to have to be able to develop words to speak to yourself, words to speak to your partner. You're going to need that emotional IQ. If you don't have that, it's going to be very tough to mend your relationship and be able to break free from the tornado inside of you. And if you are like many unfaithfuls who say, I don't know, and I'm not sure, I can't remember, I don't know what I'm feeling, that's no longer going to be sufficient. You're going to have to go deeper. If you're betrayed and you just think, I'd rather not talk about it, I totally understand. But it's time to find a safe place to talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it, you're going to continue to be held hostage. You can no longer allow yourself to stonewall, to shut down, to be this, well, I'm just not going to talk anymore. That's not going to work. Now, I know you might say, well, Sam, I'm trying, but my partner continues to do these things. I totally get it. Go deeper. Find an emotional IQ that you can utilize to try and help, and then maybe help them develop a more rich emotional IQ. If you are a couple and you're watching this, or you're watching this and you'll share it with your spouse or partner, this might be a moment where you say, okay, I've got to develop a better emotional IQ so that I can communicate, use words that are not attacking and aggressive and overwhelming, so that we can find a sense of unity. We can have discussions that are not violent, communicative discussions, but are gracious, that are redemptive, that are peaceful. You can have emotional conversations that don't spiral. I hope that this has helped you today. I hope that you can utilize these 4 tools to no longer feel like you are a hostage to your own trauma.